He cornered me. And then he asked me, with his arm up, he asked me, "How you doing?" I'm kind of like, wow, this is, what the heck? Very uncomfortable. And then he rubbed his hand down my breast. He said, "If you need anything at all, you let me know."
The FBI investigation into Sean Diddy Combs just took a shocking turn, and this time, Ellen DeGeneres is at the center of it. We've learned that federal agents have begun quietly tracing the network of high-profile acquaintances who, for years, moved in and out of Diddy's orbit. What began as a trafficking and racketeering probe has now expanded into an inquiry about accomplices, people who might have knowingly helped him maintain a culture of silence. And according to multiple insiders, Ellen's name is no longer just a social media punchline. It's reportedly on a short list of public figures whose past communications are being reviewed by investigators. That alone is extraordinary. Because when the FBI starts looking beyond the celebrity headlines, it usually means they believe someone on the outside helped sustain what prosecutors are calling a criminal enterprise.
There is a partial verdict in the Diddy case. After 2 days, the jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts.
The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on.
This latest twist broke after agents obtained new digital records from Diddy's inner circle, including correspondence with media personalities and entertainment executives. We're told Ellen's inclusion stems from archived interactions going back to 2018, specifically her televised interview with Diddy, the one where she joked about real parties starting at midnight. At the time, it sounded like a harmless quip, but those same words now mirror descriptions from witness testimony about Diddy's notorious late-night freak-off gatherings, sessions prosecutors say involved manipulation, coercion, and recordings used for blackmail. Investigators are reportedly comparing Ellen's on-air comments with newly unearthed private messages that might show she was more familiar with Diddy's nightlife than the public realized. The resurfacing of that interview has sent shockwaves through the industry. We can still recall how Diddy grinned as Ellen teased him about being late to her own party, promising her, "I won't let you down on this big one." Fans laughed at the banter then. But after Diddy's arrest, the clip began circulating online again. Only this time, viewers claimed they could feel the tension in the room. Some pointed to Ellen's phrase, "Once you get there, the party really starts," noting that prosecutors now allege those exact after-arrival hours were when Diddy's private events allegedly turned dark. The coincidence hasn't gone unnoticed by federal agents. They're reportedly analyzing timestamps, guest lists, and internal emails connected to that year's taping and the events that followed.
That he has, with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case you would have others charged, it was a statute designed to get mob bosses, trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems or criminal acts.
For the FBI, this is not about gossip. It's about patterns. Who knew what and when? According to a source familiar with the case, the Bureau's digital forensics team is comparing phone metadata, encrypted chats, and social media DMs between Diddy's publicists and Ellen's production staff. The goal, they say, is to determine whether there were communications suggesting coordination or foreknowledge of activities now under criminal review. If any of those links show intent to conceal, the implications go far beyond embarrassment. Legal experts remind us that under the RICO statute, even peripheral participants can be charged if they knowingly furthered an organized scheme. Ellen herself has not commented, but her silence has only amplified suspicion. The talk show veteran, who stepped away from television in 2022 after workplace controversies, was seen relocating to the UK in late 2024, just as federal pressure on Diddy began to build. At the time, her representatives framed the move as a chance for creative renewal. Now, insiders claim there may have been another reason. 2 individuals close to her team told journalists that she received a quiet legal briefing warning that her name could appear in sealed documents connected to the case. If accurate, that would explain her abrupt withdrawal from the spotlight, her limited online presence, and her refusal to address resurfaced posts about Diddy.
Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator, he wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
Those posts are where this renewed scrutiny began. In 2016, Ellen tweeted a birthday message to Diddy calling him Cuddle McSnugglestuff, adding, "You don't need to know why." It was playful then. Today, it reads very differently. When that tweet resurfaced after Diddy's arrest, users flooded the comments asking why she hadn't deleted it, with one remarking, "The account manager must be out of town." The question hanging over that joke is no longer funny. Why did she invent such a personal nickname for someone later accused of orchestrating predatory gatherings? Was it a harmless celebrity friendship? Or evidence of a deeper familiarity with Diddy's private world? We can't forget that Ellen's professional brand was built on access. She was one of the few hosts Diddy returned to repeatedly, even after difficult moments in his career. In 2009, when he appeared on her show amid controversy for sheltering Chris Brown after the assault on Rihanna, she pressed him about accountability. He brushed it off, saying he didn't cast judgment. She smiled and moved on. At the time, the exchange seemed innocuous, even responsible. But revisiting it now, the mood feels uneasy. Commenters on Reddit have described those old interviews as having dark energy, and prosecutors have cited Diddy's tendency to use media appearances to normalize his behavior. That pattern, they argue, helped him maintain influence and deflect scrutiny. If that's true, Ellen's platform may have played a larger role than anyone imagined. Behind closed doors, federal investigators are now piecing together how far Diddy's Combs enterprise, as prosecutors call it, extended into legitimate entertainment networks. According to one attorney who has worked RICO cases, they are likely looking for signs that celebrity endorsements or talk show appearances were used to sanitize his image or coordinate cover stories. Emails, production memos, or appearance fees could all become evidence. That makes every archived conversation between Ellen's team and Diddy's publicists potentially relevant. If the Bureau finds proof that anyone helped obscure known misconduct, even unintentionally, it could trigger charges of obstruction or accessory behavior.
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if you listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show.
The entertainment industry is watching nervously. Other A-listers have already distanced themselves from Diddy, Pink, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ashton Kutcher among them. But Ellen's avoidance of any statement stands out. She hasn't condemned Diddy, expressed sympathy for victims, or clarified her position. Instead, she's chosen silence. To some observers, that restraint looks strategic. They believe her attorneys advised her that any comment could be interpreted as interference while the investigation unfolds. To others, it looks like guilt by omission. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's recent podcast comments have reignited the story. He questioned why Ellen, once one of the most outspoken figures in Hollywood, suddenly disappeared from public view just as the Diddy case exploded. You can't be that close to the storm and pretend you never heard thunder, he said, a remark that instantly trended. Within hours, social media was filled with screenshots of Ellen's old episodes, frame-by-frame analyses of her body language when talking to Diddy, and speculation about what she might have witnessed. Former network employees claim that off-camera, Diddy's visits were treated like special events, with unlisted guests arriving through side entrances, and cameras kept rolling long after the official taping ended. Those unrecorded moments are now of intense interest to the FBI.
Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. He's very successful.
According to a former daytime producer, federal agents have begun contacting staff who worked at the Ellen DeGeneres show between 2016 and 2019, asking about backstage interactions with Diddy's entourage. While there is no evidence Ellen participated in any wrongdoing, investigators reportedly want to understand whether her team provided access, introductions, or favors that could have aided Diddy's operations. One insider summarized the inquiry bluntly: "They're mapping who enabled his lifestyle. And we can sense where this is heading. The FBI doesn't pursue celebrity gossip. They pursue evidence. If Ellen's name truly appears in their working files, that suggests they've already found something connecting her to Diddy's network, even if indirectly. Maybe it's nothing more than an email chain or a misplaced invitation. Or maybe it's the thread that unravels a bigger system of Hollywood protection, the code of silence that shielded powerful figures for years. Either way, the focus has shifted. And as agents widen their lens to examine who helped Diddy sustain his empire, one question keeps echoing through every headline. What exactly did Ellen know? And who else is about to be exposed next?"
Of coming forward. They've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
The FBI's interest in Ellen isn't just about her old interviews or friendly tweets. It's about her access. We're talking about one of the most well-connected figures in daytime television, a person whose Rolodex could open almost any door in Hollywood. And when investigators describe Diddy's indictment as the blueprint of a criminal enterprise, they're not imagining a one-man operation. They're mapping an ecosystem, a web of enablers, fixers, and gatekeepers who, willingly or not, helped him maintain control of his image. Ellen wasn't some distant observer. She was a gatekeeper, a tastemaker who could rehabilitate reputations with a single laugh or shield them with her silence. And that silence, in the eyes of the Bureau, might not be innocent anymore.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
According to two insiders familiar with the federal inquiry, agents are now reviewing contact logs from Diddy's press teams to identify which hosts were routinely granted exclusive interviews, VIP access, or private invites. Ellen's show appears in those lists more than once. The reasoning, investigators say, is simple. If Diddy used his media appearances to normalize his lifestyle and mute accusations, then the platforms that hosted him become part of the pattern. Ellen's 2018 on-air banter about real parties starting at midnight now reads like an eerie prelude to the testimonies describing those same nights as scenes of coercion and intimidation. The FBI reportedly wants to know whether that familiarity came from hearsay or first-hand experience. And then there's the access question. Sources claim Ellen wasn't only inviting Diddy into her studio, she was occasionally seen at private gatherings connected to the same celebrity circuit. Photos from the 2008 Elton John Foundation Gala, for instance, show Ellen and Portia de Rossi standing beside Diddy. That image, once just another red carpet snapshot, now carries a heavier implication. If she attended even one of the mogul's more secretive parties, federal agents will want to know what she saw. They'll ask whether she noticed the after-hours crowd shifts that witnesses have testified about. They'll ask if she ever received the same post-event messages that other attendees described. Messages urging discretion, coded language like, remember what's off record. It's the kind of phrasing that prosecutors in past RICO cases have cited as evidence of collective cover-ups.
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive use.
But the investigation isn't only about appearances. It's about influence and benefit. Ellen's company, A Very Good Production, has long-standing relationships across networks, studios, and advertising brands, the same ones that Diddy's business empire partnered with. Entertainment lawyers say federal financial analysts are tracing whether any overlapping sponsorships or donations might hint at silent favors exchanged behind the scenes. Did Ellen's company receive cross-promotional support from brands tied to Diddy's beverage ventures or clothing lines? Did her producers ever accept friendly perks, transport, accommodations, unbilled services when Diddy was promoting his projects? None of this proves wrongdoing, but the FBI's financial division reportedly views these perks as potential breadcrumbs in a broader network of mutual protection. Insiders close to Ellen's former staff describe a sudden tightening of communication within her camp late last year. One source recalls that by November 2024, her PR team began scrubbing old event photos, halting interviews, and refusing all questions related to Diddy's arrest. Around that same time, rumors circulated that Ellen's attorneys had quietly reached out to members of Diddy's defense team, allegedly to clarify overlapping statements. The rumor remains unconfirmed, but the timing, just weeks before Ellen's relocation overseas, has raised eyebrows. If her legal advisors truly coordinated with Diddy's lawyers, that could suggest a shared strategy to ensure no contradictions surface if either side is questioned under oath.
And if you had day 17 on the Diddy trial as the biggest one yet, guess what? Bingo, you won, because today was probably the most eventful day as far as things that happened that were said on the stand, and most importantly, things that the judge said, because Diddy almost got kicked out of his own trial.
Meanwhile, the court filings from Diddy's ongoing trial are painting a chilling backdrop. Witnesses have described a network of associates who handled logistics for his private events, security, transportation, venue rentals, and guest lists. Prosecutors argue that many of these people weren't random employees. They were recruited precisely because they would stay silent. When we overlay that with Ellen's reputation as a trusted mainstream figure who helped shape pop culture narratives, it's not hard to see why investigators might be asking whether her influence was ever used to normalize his behavior. A single positive interview from a beloved host can disarm public skepticism faster than any press release. This is where the moral contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Ellen built her empire on kindness, on accountability, on the mantra of be good to one another. She fired producers for toxic workplace behavior, lectured guests about responsibility, and styled herself as the conscience of daytime television. Yet here she is, silent, while the man she once called Cuddle McSnugglestuff faces accusations of running a coercive operation built on intimidation and secrecy. The hypocrisy is jarring. For years, she demanded transparency from others, yet now she hides behind legal teams and privacy clauses. It's as if the same industry that rewarded her for moral clarity is now watching her vanish behind a curtain of avoidance.
The question is he a criminal? Is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law.
In Hollywood, silence has always been a form of currency. You don't have to defend someone outright to protect them. You just stay quiet long enough for the storm to pass. But this storm isn't passing. Each week of Diddy's trial delivers new testimony about assistants coerced into compliance, executives who looked the other way, and public figures who continued to associate with him despite the whispers. When those stories reach the jury, the context around every ally becomes crucial, and that's what the FBI seems to understand. To dismantle a system, you have to examine not only the perpetrator, but the ecosystem that allowed him to thrive. The stakes for Ellen go far beyond reputation. If investigators determine she or her company benefited from Diddy's operations, financially or through access, the fallout could be severe. Even without formal charges, the perception of complicity can destroy a legacy faster than any verdict. Former talk show staffers have already spoken privately about their fears that federal subpoenas could reach the archives of the Warner Brothers lot, where production documents, guest contracts, and behind-the-scenes footage are stored. If any of that material contradicts public narratives or shows unusual instructions from Diddy's camp, Ellen's silence will look less like caution and more like strategy.
People I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Industry insiders say networks are already preparing for the possibility of reputational triage. Streaming platforms that host Ellen's back catalog are reportedly discussing contingency plans, just in case a damaging link surfaces. Advertisers are wary too. The question being whispered in boardrooms is simple. If Ellen knew more than she let on, how long before the audience turns on everyone who helped her keep the secret? We can't overlook the psychological angle either. Ellen's public persona relied on control. Every segment scripted, every laugh calculated. To see her now retreat into complete silence suggests something deeper than mere fatigue. Some former associates believe she's paralyzed by fear. Fear of what evidence might exist. Fear of association. Fear of losing the moral authority that made her brand valuable. Others think she's simply protecting herself from a machine she understands all too well, the same Hollywood system that once protected her. After all, those who benefit from silence know best how powerful it can be. So, where does that leave us? With a veteran talk show host under quiet investigation, a disgraced music mogul facing a lifetime in prison, and a city that seems to run on complicity, the FBI doesn't spend months combing through emails and contracts for fun. They chase patterns. They follow money. They identify behavior that repeats. And if Ellen's name truly sits within those files, it means they've already found enough threads to tug. The question isn't whether she knew about Diddy's alleged lifestyle. It's how much she helped keep it hidden.
Same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the interesting thing about the Epstein and the theory about Epstein is we know he filmed people for sure on that island. He has a lot of movies, a lot of films of people that are very, very powerful political figures and entertainers, business people. So do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein himself? And of course not. Of course not. Yeah. No.
And that brings us to the uncomfortable truth we can't look away from. For decades, Hollywood has operated under a code: protect the powerful, reward loyalty, and never break the silence. But every code cracks eventually. Maybe Ellen believed she could outlast this one. Maybe she thought moving abroad would put an ocean between her and the fallout. But investigations don't respect distance. They follow the evidence, and the evidence is moving closer to her every day. So we have to ask, when the truth finally breaks, will Ellen speak up? Or will she let her legacy crumble in silence? If the FBI's spotlight stays on her, how many more names could tumble out of the shadows with her? Let us know what you think, because this story isn't over, and the next revelation might change everything. Until then, stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, in Hollywood, nothing stays buried forever.